what we do at PBE Podcast is say 3, 2, 1, and we have to say, let's go.
Okay.
Like charged up.
I am charged. Gotta back up a little bit. Okay.
2, 1, let's go! Yeah! That was power.
So, hey, I'm Kate Staude, coming from Vancouver, Canada, doing a field trip in Tucson, Arizona.
So you drove to California?
Yes.
With John-Mark Staude, who we've had on our show.
Yes.
Your father.
My father.
Running all kinds of crazy businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Mining like crazy. You've been watching him do that your whole life. How's that been?
So that has been crazy. We are the definition of rocks on the mantelpiece when it comes to being the daughter of a geologist.
Right on.
So along our coast trip coming from California through Washington, we've been collecting rocks along the way. We've been seeing the bluffs, seeing the topography, learning all about the faults, geological settings.
What?
Yeah.
So you're like, you have basically like an associate's approaching a bachelor's degree in geology.
I don't want to brag, but.
And then you went from California to Arizona.
Yes.
And now you're on your way to New Mexico.
Yes. Wow. And then up to Colorado, Idaho, and back home to Canada.
Wow. And you're going to school in LA?
Yes.
How long have you been going to school in LA?
For 2 years now. So I'll be starting my third.
You've been in and around LA in the last 2 years?
Yes.
Revolving your life around the school of, what's it called again?
Occidental College.
For the last 2 years?
Yes. Yes.
Which is basically the outpouring of the COVID-19 pandemic.
There is that part to it. Yeah.
Wow. And how old are you?
I am 21.
What?
Yeah.
So you're 19, 20, 21, experiencing COVID and experiencing college life, getting a degree in economy.
Yes.
And now you're literally living this major, what some argue is the biggest money moving change of wealth and everything that they're calling this. And you're an economist.
Yes.
Teach me something. What is going on in the world right now?
So what we started with is focusing on the economy in general, global. When you come down to the micro level, you're looking at LA. And so what happened specifically at my college with everyone going online is that we all had to adapt to an online learning space. So what that did was actually draw you outside of the classroom, put you in your own home, and you're having to study, communicate to your professors, to your other classmates while studying the economy as this monumental moment is going on in history.
I got the chills right now. That's crazy. That's crazy. How did that, what was your experience to that?
So my experience was, I had to fly home because the school shut down. And so I flew home. I continued my courses online from Canada in Vancouver. And I was studying a economics course called Austrian economics, which is a libertarian focus. The
Austrians that made the dirt bike KTM, the Austrians. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, I am.
Wow.
And
it's
because so in Austria, there was a man who went by the name of Malthus. Okay. Yes, exactly.
Following.
And he wanted to focus on less government intervention.
Okay.
So what's really interesting is while I was studying this Austrian libertarian focus, that is a no government intervention focus, all of this COVID experience is going on where it's the greatest government intervention moment in the 21st century.
Like a natural intervention moment.
Exactly.
Out of our control, at anyone's control.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Whoa. You got an interesting philosophy going on here. Your experience is about to get very interesting because, experience for me in my 20s, right? I didn't go straight to college. I went and worked. I got to travel the country and do dirt bike stuff. It was really cool. I mean, a lot of people. But it's an interesting thought for me when it comes down to experience of physically being with someone and experiencing what to say, what not to say, right? That's how you get through life. That's how you understand people. That's how you understand communication, right? That's what wires you. You're doing this digitally. You're doing this through screens and all that stuff at a very pivotal point in your life, development wise, as a 19, 20, 21-year-old. Not so much of this physical stuff's happening. It's this big digital movement and it's creating this void. It sounds like.
It really is because I go to a school, Occidental College is about 2,000 kids. So when you go down there, you kind of expect to socialize all the time. That's really where you build your network.
Right.
And especially studying economics, that's really building the network to move on to the next level, whether that be a master's or a job. But when all of that is taken on individually, then you're only really speaking to your professors online and then the students within your classroom. You're not making the little social connections of just like passing by on campus. It's all just class-based. So you're not able to make the little moments with people.
Yeah. How strange. Yeah. Okay. So you got a libertarian style of way of thinking about this. You like the Austrian way of doing things. And then you see this natural intervention.
Yes.
That's now so take me from there. Where are we at?
Now what we're doing is studying what the government's reaction is to this pandemic. And the government's reaction is to support its economy. And so that's what revolved around the stimulus checks. So now those are coming out. And so taking this libertarian approach is interesting because they're more into the idea of government shouldn't touch the economy. Let the market, supply and demand, make an equilibrium.
Machiavellian. Exactly. If things fall apart, they fall apart. It's how it works.
Exactly. Creative destruction. So usually libertarian is thinking, okay, creative destruction, the industries or companies that are not supposed to make it through this natural pandemic moment in history won't make it through. And so we'll creatively create new industries that come out of this.
Like what?
So technology is just the huge platform. So everyone gets onto online databases, gets onto Skype and specifically Zoom. And so that's
what we're on right now.
Exactly. So everyone just takes their way into this virtual world. So it's actually beyond just the physical world and more in this virtual atmosphere where now you're able to connect, and it's more common to connect with someone who's 2,000 miles away on Zoom. It's becoming the norm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So our government comes in, says, we're going to stimulate our economy. We need money to make money. Everybody that's in business, you're going to get stimulated.
Yeah.
And we did, right? Yes. My business included. Everybody got money from this thing, right? As long as you had your taxes right, as long as you're doing everything right, blah, blah, blah. If we were in Austria, that wouldn't have happened.
You're right. It would have been, back in like the 18th century. So
now it's kind of like, I guess the economy is good enough. It's well enough. They recovered.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
What happened in Austria during this time?
So the Austrian approach was more just discovered by men in Austria. It was specifically Malthus, and then you'll hear of Ludwig von Mises.
Whoa.
And those were two men who came up with this theory of non-government intervention. And they explored it. They took comparisons around Europe to see how the model worked. And they found that a lot of the governments really did intervene. And so taking that into kind of like the 21st century and here with this pandemic, we're seeing the government intervene, come up with these stimulus checks. But what my generation is going to start to see is what happens because of giving the government, the population, the stimulus checks.
What's your expectation? What's your prediction on what's going to happen?
So one thing that is going to happen, from my point of view, is going to be inflation. So since money came out to the population, it's trying to stimulate the market, stimulate purchases, keep consumerism going, keep investments going.
That's right.
But what that's going to do is, because people are spending now, it's inflating the money supply. So what's going to happen to prices in the future? They could go up, and that'll just cause inflation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. How about a drastic increase in our ability to find natural resources like copper and gold and silver, oil and gas, and all that stuff, right? All this new battery technology. What if we drastically increase our ability to spend way less money and get way more results on natural resources? Would that help?
True. That would help. That would help very much. Definitely making the move towards electricity would help too. So as we're seeing with electrical vehicles, making wind farms, water generation, all ways to step away from even the natural resource. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, renewables.
Exactly.
What's your take on renewable? What's your take on the oil and gas industry? When you're sitting on a flight and the girl next to you goes, I work in the oil and gas industry. How do you feel when they say that?
Oof.
Okay.
I think I think it's going to be a really big move to start stepping away from that. We want to get away from kind of like drilling into the earth, we want to be able to use what we have just on the surface of the earth and not disrupt any geological formations below. And just because we don't know where that could lead us long term.
Well, that's right. But we've been doing it for almost 100 years.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're also going to see, I think, in your near future, this drastic response in our ability as human, as a species around the planet, to manage these resources way better than we used to. Yes. Right. We're going to be much more successful in where we drill, why we drill, how we use the energy. That could be a drastic change in the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, especially with how much water resource goes into drilling, goes into mining.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be more and more frugal on it.
Have to.
Yeah.
There's no other option.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because renewables is not the option, and it's not the realistic one yet. They're going in the right direction, but they really need a lot of help. And a lot of that help is hydrocarbon fuel, oil and gas. That's a very efficient, a very reliable energy source. It's allowing us to continue to do what we do for sure, but we all get it that we need to get more efficient. That's how it works, right? Mm-hmm. We're integrating, we're innovating, we're getting there.
Yeah.
But so right now you're focusing on getting your degree done on economy.
Yeah. Yeah.
While dealing and watching how our government, as a Canadian, are you a U.S. citizen or you're Canadian?
I am. I'm both.
Okay, you're both.
Yes.
How does that work? You have like some
dual citizenship.
Dual citizenship. Okay. Yeah. My dad was born in Kenora.
Oh.
Yeah. You believe that? Isn't that cool?
Super cool.
Tittlemeyers come from Eastern Canada somehow. They hopped the pond during, the wars and all that stuff. We never really got to the bottom of it. But anyway, fun fact. I got some Canadian in me. So I have the ability to feel like I can traverse borders. Right, naturally.
Oh, you're welcome, Canada. Yeah, Canada welcomes everyone.
How's Canada doing, by the way, from your perspective on kind of being in LA, one of the central hubs of the Americas? How's Canada going?
So Canada was locked down for a long time. We took it pretty seriously, especially with the border. So the border between Canada and the US and also Canada, other countries, has been closed for a long time.
Wow.
And every month they're reevaluating depending on what streams of COVID are still around, whether they want to open up that border or not. And so it is closed at this moment. We're looking to an August possible opening up.
Wow.
But that will come in with some quarantine rules.
Oh, snap.
Wow.
How's the economy doing after all this?
So the economy has been doing well, just as the US did. Canada had the stimulus checks go on.
Okay.
And they had a specific program called CERB that was for students who weren't able to get employment during COVID, and they were given a check.
What? They had a bachelor's degree, but couldn't get a job. They got a check.
Yeah. If they were going through the later half of high school into college, they would get a check because of the inability to find work. You had to be actively looking for work.
You had to show that, right?
Yes,
you had to show some proof
documentation. But
what do you think what is the thought on, getting a check in the mail without really doing anything for that? How does that going for your generation?
I think one thing that it hit hard is work ethic, because I think during that age is when you're starting to learn to work hard and get results out of what you work for. This is where you're going to college, where how you're representing yourself, and grades are mattering more and more because your life decisions are going to come after those 4 years. And so one thing that's going to be key is work ethic.
Yeah.
And especially when you're sitting at home on a computer screen, that's what your years turned into.
Whoa.
And so there's a lot less drive to complete everything that you would be doing if you were around all other students, being on campus, being in the college environment.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think? Are we going to be staying in this kind of digital world?
I think that the world during this COVID year really took off into this virtual space. Yeah. That's where everyone is existing. That's where the market is. And so I do think that is going to be the steps forward. As we are students, we have had the experience of taking our learning into that second atmosphere, into that virtual world during this time that we're supposed to be learning. And we're learning a lot about not only subjects, but about life. Yeah. And so that has become naturally what life is now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I'm excited for you. I'm excited that you're pumped about the economy. You pay attention to this stuff. You mentioned right before we started recording this void that's happening in inner city.
Yes.
So explain that.
Yeah.
Please.
So what's happening right now is during COVID, the cities got locked down and workspaces started to get shut down. Everyone went home to work online and join this virtual atmosphere of Zoom and Skype. And so what happened with the cities getting locked down and rents being as expensive as they are, the working population has decided to move outwards towards the suburbs. In the suburbs, they can raise their kids, they can do work from home, they can do everything online, and they don't have to be in such a central location where their network usually is, because now their whole network is online. Now it's the natural to just communicate with someone and say, let's set up a Zoom call.
Not being downtown, not being in a skyscraper, not all that stuff. They're getting out.
Yeah.
And your generation's filling it in.
Exactly. So now that rents are coming down, specifically I know in Vancouver, rents are coming down in downtown. So that is drawing in all the kids who are graduating college or who have downtown campuses are being drawn into the city. So that's what is creating a hub for the 20 to 25-year-old generation.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a physical hub.
It is.
It's not a digital one, right?
As things are opening up, it's becoming replaced with that physical hub. And and they're bringing with them their kind of like online learning experience, bringing it to that hub.
They're
so
like
it
ninjas.
is.
They're like half digital, half physical.
Exactly.
I don't even know how to look at you right now. You're like a machine.
We got doubles going on. Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, so something that's interesting for me, last 10 years of my life, going from college to professional, blah, 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 they call it the great crew change.
Ooh.
This idea that there's all these graduates and all these jobs in like the 70s and then the 80s, 90s to the 2000s, there was like none. So it's like almost 30 years of like this big gap.
Okay. Yeah.
And now the people that are in these high positions in oil and gas, specifically on the geology side, on the science side, it's very old timer and young. There's really no gap of these like 35 to 45, 50-year-olds. It's very few and far between. And now we're blowing up again on young geoscientists, right? Young people that are excited about, wait a minute, what is this natural world? What is serpentisphere, right? Like it's caught your attention for sure. It cracks the world.
In here,
You're going to start picking up more rocks. But it's the great crew change. Everyone talked about this great crew change, this idea that there's this new generation that's coming in, and it's all about how can we grab the knowledge and the wisdom and the experience of the old timers and transfer that to this great crew change, or through the great crew change. What you're telling me is that it's happened. It's that nature has now forced us into that situation. You guys are doing it. You guys are totally okay with living on top of each other, living downtown.
Yep.
And starting to run the businesses. Look, this office space is open because they didn't need it anymore. Well, now I can use that to whatever, right? To run a bar or run some business. And you guys are now filling in this big gap, this big mysterious great crew change thing.
Yeah.
You guys are coming in and you're eager.
Optimistic. You got that.
Optimistic. What's interesting is, what's your worldview? I did the last question because I know we don't have much time. I told you we could talk about hours with what you're doing here. But what's your perspective on like worldviews? How's our relationship from your perspective from different countries around the world?
Let's see. I think as the world moves forward, as it globalizes, as it turns into this virtual sphere, I'm seeing it's easier to connect with individuals who are abroad. I'm seeing that while travel restrictions have been harsh for the moment, there's actually been a lot, specifically on social media, showing a lot that people in the 20 to 25-year-old range are getting into traveling. It's starting out small. It's starting out just like going to popular hubs for travel, weekend vacations, but it is going to evolve into more and more travel. So really what it's going to expand into is going abroad to work, doing the virtual atmosphere, but from abroad. So instead of being at home and working at home, you're going to want a virtual job in order to be wherever you want in the world.
You're like in Venice.
Exactly.
On the laptop, like, running it.
Doing your work. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's interesting. That's an interesting positive twist.
Yeah.
I think
totally.
A lot more communication, a lot more relationship building between countries. Okay. In your opinion, Who has the strongest economy right now, post-COVID?
Post-COVID, I'm going to say China is looking really strong.
Wow.
I think the U.S. has always been a strong economy. Has their government intervention has really helped in this moment, keeping the market going. But I think China has really looked towards future because they're on the better side of COVID now, and so I think that they're
controlling the bug in their country.
Yeah,
You mean? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
hear that. Interesting. Now, what about the US dollar being kind of, that's what we trade on, right? Like that's how things work. Isn't that's a good foothold in what's going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it always has been, especially in Africa, traveling there, like everyone uses the US dollar as a currency. So it's either their native currency or as in Tanzania, when I visited there, we used the American dollar.
George Washington, he's like, give me a Benjamin, I'll take you wherever you need to go. He knew what you were talking about.
Yeah. Didn't have too many Franklins, but used what I had.
Right on. I didn't know that. I knew infrastructure wise, China has been investing a ton in Africa and other places. And they have a great position on renewable energy, minerals and metals, and you know, kind of how that transition to a different form of energy or alternative energy. Hydrocarbon energy is always going to be here, in my opinion, at least for the next 20, 30 years strong. But there's going to be all kinds of opportunities for technology and innovation to happen in all these other ways. China owns a lot of the minerals in the ground. A lot of those sources to make all that stuff is China operated and owned, from what I know about it. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but that's pretty interesting what you're saying. They got a good position post-COVID. It seems like they've done a good job in investing in their future as a supplier of very needed materials for all this new ways of creating energy.
And they're building a highway through Turkey to cross over into Africa. And so they're really moving their front across Europe.
What? There's a straight up highway from China to Africa?
We're about to see.
Whoa. Bullet trains and shit?
We'll see. Through Turkey, we'll see what they come up with. It could even be beyond that.
And who knows? They probably have like some freaking machine where they just step in and all of a sudden you're in Africa. They're in transportation mode. Who knows? But I feel good about our ability to move forward. I really have a lot of confidence in what we have in America. Regulations, politics, all of it considered. I think we do have a strong position to get out there and fight, get good work put together, move money to make more money. It's not this just relying on bailouts and all this stuff. All the bad business, I think, in our country is starting to work itself out. I think nature is just saying, sorry, guys, it's not going to work this way.
Yeah, exactly. That creative destruction lens.
Creative destruction. Whoa, you're gonna write a PhD on that or what?
Maybe so.
Are you thinking master's or job? Last question, and then we're getting out of here.
I'm thinking master's.
Whoa, Occidental.
Continue the studies into behavioral economics. See how the world really operates.
That's like a psychology degree, sociology degree.
Yeah.
Is that what it would be technically?
Master's in social sciences. Yeah.
Social science.
Yeah.
Wow. Where do you want to go to do it?
I'm not sure yet. The West Coast. Gonna stay on the West Coast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You just love that thing.
I really do.
Wow. Can't go back up to Canada. It's open. Oregon, Washington.
Staying in the States, I feel drive. There's so much opportunity in the US, whether it is job, whether it is school, there is just opportunity all the time. And
get me all charged up, ready to run through a wall right now. Wow. So San Diego, it doesn't matter. You're just going to look for a good school?
I'm thinking USC right now.
What?
School business
Trojan.
Marshall. Yeah.
Wow. Your experience is going to be really, really unique and I think very powerful. I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
Stay focused, pick up rocks as much as you can. Stay connected to the natural world.
Yes.
And enjoy it. Enjoy every second of it because it's not guaranteed. You know what I mean?
That's true. It could go online at any moment.
They can hit the power switch on or off. We're not sure at this point. So we got to enjoy it. You got to keep people laughing, keep people smiling. I like your attitude. I think you have a great dad. I'm pumped.
He's
I'm
a great
excited.
leader.
I'm excited for you. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
High five.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Oh, let's go. Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you for the great questions and the econ talk. I'm always for it.
That was power. Right on. Thank you, Kate.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Troy. We'll see you next time.
Right on. Right on.